Israel and Iran are exchanging new waves of attacks as the war enters its second week. An Iranian missile strike hit the Israeli port city of Haifa earlier today. Several people were injured in the attack. And that escalation coincides with high-stakes talks in Geneva, Switzerland, where foreign ministers from France, Germany, and the United Kingdom are meeting with their Iranian counterparts in the hopes of finding a possible peace solution. The European foreign ministers say they are ready for additional talks with Iran following today's meeting. Meantime, the White House is setting a new deadline for Iran. President Trump says he will make a decision on taking U.S. action in the conflict within the next 2 weeks. By deferring an intervention plan, the president says he is leaving the door open for Iran to come to terms on a diplomatic solution. To talk about all this, CBS News reporter Haley Ott joins us now live from Tel Aviv. And Haley, thank you very much for being with us. We have seen several waves of missile strikes on Israel throughout the day at this point. What is the situation on the ground there?
Yes, so early this morning, a missile hit in the south of the country in Beersheba. It damaged residences, an apartment building, injured a handful of people, none seriously. But then just a couple hours ago, sirens rang out across the country, and Iran fired around 20 missiles. We all took to shelters, but there was a hit in Haifa, and 23 people were injured there, according to paramedics, 3 very seriously, including one 16-year-old. Israel has also been attacking Iran. It said that it carried out strikes on 25 military and nuclear targets very early this morning. So those diplomatic talks that you mentioned that have been going on in Geneva, while European leaders and the Iranian foreign minister may be looking for a diplomatic off-road, this conflict is very much still ongoing.
And Haley, we brought up those rescue flights. You've been speaking with Americans who are trapped there in Israel. What are they telling you about the situation?
Yes, I've spoken to a number of Americans who came here on vacation. They came here to visit family. Their flights have been canceled, and they have all said to me that they are scared, frustrated, that they haven't heard anything from the U.S. Embassy here or from the State Department, apart from some guidance that there possibly was a plan to organize potentially flights or charter boats to get people out of here who want to leave. This is happening as European countries are organizing evacuations of their own citizens. So these people I spoke to said, why isn't our country, our government, stepping in to do this same thing? One man I talked to said that he was desperate to get home to his wife and 2 children. He even made an appeal directly to the president and said, President Trump, you sign these executive orders, you get things done. Can't you get your citizens home? And as you mentioned, people have taken matters into their own hands. They're privately trying to find ways to leave the country. So they're awaiting guidance from the embassy here, which may hopefully come either today or later this weekend.
Haley Ott in Tel Aviv, thank you very much. And for more on this, let's go to White House reporter Aaron Navarro joining us. Aaron, we've heard the president set deadlines now on multiple occasions, only to then push them back. So we hear about these 2 weeks. Is this definitive? Could we potentially see this get delayed? Or is there a possibility that the Trump administration may come forward with an offer that does not include an unconditional surrender?
Nancy, you're right in that we've heard this 2 weeks phrase used when it comes to his, quote, reciprocal tariffs, when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine. At the same time, I got a sense of concern from the White House during Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt's briefing yesterday with reporters, especially when she mentioned that the administration believes that Iran, given the order from the supreme leader, would be able to complete building a nuclear weapon within weeks. And that was something that Karoline Leavitt shared and is part of the reason why at least she believed that this conflict may be different than some of the other ones where you've seen President Trump say 2 weeks. This also may also just be a time to try diplomacy from the U.S. rather than a hard and fast deadline. We know that British Foreign Minister David Lammy met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff yesterday here at the White House relayed the message to the Iranians today during their meeting in Geneva that the nuclear deal that the U.S. proposed weeks ago is still on the table. Sources have indicated to CBS News that that deal remains unchanged. And just now we're getting readouts of that crucial meeting in Geneva with the Iranian foreign minister, where you're seeing European leaders saying that the U.S. has to be involved in any diplomatic talks with Iran. All of this being said, President Trump, especially this week, has been adamant that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He said he has been saying it for decades now. So any deal with Iran that, does not include them committing to not have a nuclear weapon, commit to not enriching any more uranium, it's hard to be seen as potentially viable for this Trump administration, given all of their public messaging this week.
Aaron Navarro, thank you very much for joining us. And for more on all this, let's bring in CBS News Middle East reporter Courtney Keely joining us here on set. Courtney, thank you very much. I know you've been covering all this extensively at this point. Iran says it will not attack the U.S. unless it intervenes, which is a big if at this point. But how big of a concern is there, though, that one of the militant groups that Iran supports in that area could end up taking unilateral action instead?
Well, we probably would have seen it already unless there's some sort of rogue element. That's the wild card. That's the lone wolf kind of issue, because Hezbollah and Hamas have really been destabilized and decimated in terms of their capabilities, not just their leadership. So I haven't seen any chatter from Hamas or Hezbollah or any kind of viable options from them. And I think Netanyahu knew that when he launched these strikes on Iran.
And Courtney, yesterday we talked about Israel's long-term ability to defend itself from Iranian missile strikes. So as Israel continues to hit Iran's missile launchers and stockpile, is there any indication of what Iran's arsenal looks like at the moment?
Well, their ballistic missiles were about 2,000 to 3,000. Iran said they shot off about 400. They've lost, as Israel said that, excuse me, because Iran doesn't tip their hand. So I took that information from Israel that they had sent up a lot of drones, and it didn't seem, according to my calculations, my rough calculations, that they have in any way depleted their missile supply. But in terms of the delivery systems that have been hit, in terms of operational capability and leadership, and all other options that they're part of the calculation, it seems that they've really taken out the upper echelon of the leadership and taken out some of those launchers. But we are still seeing ballistic missiles get through and hit Israel, and that is still a grave concern.
Absolutely. Courtney Keely, thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for staying on top of all of this.